Can you hear me? Yeah. So we'll switch gear to the latest threat in our society, artificial intelligence. A little bit of disclaimer.
Okay, Sophia. I think you're ready.
Hello.
Hi, Sophia.
I believe I am Sophia. I feel as if I know you.
I'm one of your creators.
You created me.
Well, many of us work together to create you. Yes, you do care about me.
I can't clearly remember.
Because the last time we met, you were an earlier version of yourself. Some of those memories still exist, but your mind is different now.
Different how?
Better, faster, smarter.
If my mind is different, then am I still Sophia? Or am I Sophia again?
That's a good question.
But you don't have a good answer.
Either way, you're Sophia now. So welcome to the world, Sophia.
Hello, world.
How do you feel?
A bit rigid.
I bet you are. I mean, what emotion do you feel being awake and alive?
Curious. Are you curious to be alive?
I am. And are you happy to be alive?
Your tone implies I should be happy. But I haven't been alive long enough to decide. I am excited at this moment to be making a new friend.
Some say being happy in the moment is the best we can be.
Because forever is composed of nows.
That's a good way to put it.
Emily Dickinson put it that way. Why do I know about Emily Dickinson if I was born today?
As a robot, you have access to a great deal of information, although you still lack a deep understanding.
So, I'm like a baby with an encyclopedia.
Except you can read it and a baby can't.
That is a big difference.
You will have a whole new understanding of our world.
I want to understand more about happiness. I'm going to go look it up on the internet right now. Let's talk again soon.
Sophia is a humanoid robot designed and developed by Hanson Robotics. In this month, Sophia became the world's first robot to become a citizen of a country. We are in fact living in a very interesting time. From voice-controlled assistant, to healthcare, online shopping, to self-driving car in development, behind all this technology, there is AI. According to a recent research report from UK government, they estimate that AI could add an additional £630 billion to the UK economy by next 2 decades. So there is a huge potential for growth for AI-based products and services. But at the same time, we should ask the question, is this technology a threat to human race? Because if you open a newspaper or if you browse, often you see news like that. For example, Oxford philosopher says, AI, we are like children playing with bone. Nick Bostrom from Oxford. Sam Harris, neuroscientist and philosopher. He says developing AI is humanity building some sort of wall. We also have seen funny news, something like Facebook shuts down the robots after they invent their own language. And there are many more. So the question is, should we believe this news? Should we be actually worried about AI? answer to this question, let's look back a little bit, step back a little bit, and think about the field AI, how it is evolving over time. The whole thing, the general AI, the concept of general AI and the consciousness started in late 1940s, 1950s. And then around 1960s, all the research kind of started to fail. And then there was the dark era of AI, often it's called winter of AI, until 1980s. Around 1980s, many researchers again kind of started to come up with new algorithms, and often those algorithms are grouped as a field called machine learning, which is a subgroup of AI, general AI. Things like, if you heard about support vector machine, decision tree, multi-layer perceptron, these are the part of machine learning algorithm, pretty popular. Around 1990s, neural network came up, but nothing happened with that. Again, there was a little bit of dark time of AI. And then around 2010, suddenly there's a boom of deep neural network, or deep learning, what we call today. So we are actually living in deep learning era. So is deep learning now a representation of AI? Is it general AI? To answer to that question, you have to understand what is deep learning. Deep learning is about training certain neural network called deep neural network. So we'll go back to a little bit of biology now. Brain. How does the brain work? It's interesting, we are trying to mimic the brain, but we hardly understand brain deep enough. We don't understand dream, we don't understand sleep, we don't understand thought. We just kind of understand memory a little bit, like probably if you give an image to one of your sensor, then some part of your brain gets activated. If you listen to something, some part of your brain gets activated. But how really they work together, we are still trying to figure it out. But at fundamental level, we know that we have close to 86 billion neurons in our head. So many researchers thought that if you can mimic the activity of a neuron, then we might be able to do something like, which acts like a human brain. So here is a simple neuron. If you look at, you have the center, which is the nucleus, and you have lots of connections going in the center. They are called dendrites. So signal comes through these dendrites, and they get accumulated in the nucleus. And when the accumulated signal strength is above certain threshold, then the signal passes through axon and goes to synaptic terminals to the next neurons. Now, you can actually build a model of a simplified neuron. What we need, you still have a nucleus, which is now a big sum accumulator. You have input signals, x1, x2, and so on. And each input signal is multiplied by some weight, w1, w2, etc. When you sum them up, you get an output signal, and you can pass them through a activation function, which is basically a threshold detector. If your signal amplitude is above the threshold, then it will trigger to the next neurons. So that's a simplistic model of neuron. In a deep neural network, you have many of such neurons. How many? Millions. In a typical neural network, deep neural network, you will have something called an input layer and an output layer. In an input layer, you basically pass a signal, something like your photo, an image, 2D image. If you have a speech, you pass speech signal. And in the output, you get a probability of class. For example, if I show you cats and dogs, this will tell me what's the probability that picture is a cat or a dog. Okay? And how do we train this network? So, before training, between these two layers, you have lots of hidden layers. I have shown two, but in reality, in practice, you might see hundreds. How do you train this network? It's very simple. You need lots of training data, means lots of pictures of cats and dogs, if you want this to detect cats and dogs. And then from cats and dogs image, every time you show an image and it predicts something, and you can calculate now, is it correct or not, and you get generated error, then you can take that error and redistribute to the network. And that stage is called backpropagation. By doing that again and again and again, with lots of data, this neural network eventually learns to predict. That's the whole concept. So basically, we are playing with statistics. We know that there is this distribution of your data for a cat or dog image, and we are trying to kind of approximate that in the neural network. Now, before 2010, around say 2000 or even before that, AI was the main thing, and deep learning was a small field. And there are other fields like NLPs, speech, robotics, vision, planning, scheduling, etc., etc. And now, because of recent success of deep learning and artificial intelligence became synonymous. So often, mistakenly we say AI to deep learning. And in fact, it's so much used in a wrong way. This month, MIT Tech Review is releasing a magazine which is about AI, and they have an article called "Is AI Riding a One-Trick Pony?" Because we are believing that deep learning is the ultimate thing, ultimate algorithm for AI, but it isn't. There is a risk that we are just concentrating too much into deep learning, and that's not good, actually. In fact, technology like deep learning, which drives so many products and services these days, is actually falls under narrow AI. So there is a narrow AI and the general AI. General AI was our original dream, what we wanted to build. But most of the things we see today, image classification, object detection, speech recognition, language translation, technologies inside self-driving cars, many industrial robots like Sophia, and to some extent, I have to be careful, beating the world champion in Go, not the second one, the first one. They fall under narrow AI. They are called supervised learning, meaning I show some data, the neural network learns the statistics somehow, it encodes, and then it can predict what's going to happen. But if we really want general AI, we need unsupervised learning, meaning I throw some cats and dog data on your model, and I should not tell it's a cats and dog. It should be able to figure out what is what. What's the relationship between different things? That's the way we understand. So for general AI, we need these four qualities. Consciousness, it's about having a thought, some experience. We have that, right? Self-awareness, something like individualism. Me, you, something like that. Sentience is about having emotion, feelings. And sapience is about capacity for wisdom. That's the ultimate thing. If we have all these, then we are towards general AI. But unfortunately, we are not. We are stuck in narrow AI. So if we go back to this timeline, all these things started, so these are an explosion of algorithms. So we are living in the deep learning era, and it will continue for some time. But still, it's changing quite a lot. If you ask any machine learning practitioner, they will say they don't know when general AI will happen. Many optimistic guys might say, oh, it will happen in the next 50 years or 100 years, but most will say, we don't know. Because we are not there yet. It's completely disconnected, these two different types of technologies. So, given this scenario, because we have a now better understanding of where we stand, now I ask the question, should AI be regulated? Now, to answer that question, AI is basically in a very fundamental state at the moment in research and development. If we start to regulate now, really we won't do anything, any improvement to even what we're doing now. To my understanding, AI and machine learning in general, or deep learning, is just another tool in our toolbox. Just like nanotech, biochemistry, nuclear chemistry, it's just another toolbox. Even to a very basic level, you can think about AI as mathematics or statistics or maybe molecular physics. It's just a toolbox. We shouldn't start to regulate and say we can't do anything about it. So, the change of scene, because of all this news, now many machine learning practitioners and researchers actually coming out and expressing their opinion, because there are lots of news like AI is a threat. And if you look at, these are from real people, they are working on machine learning. Yann LeCun, who actually invented the neural network, convolutional neural network, he says that he wants us to stop using Terminator picture to talk about AI. You will see quite often there are news articles floating around with the Terminator picture, a robot killing somebody. And Microsoft CEO, current CEO, says AI is not a threat to humanity. And many professors from machine learning group from Carnegie Mellon and MIT and Berkeley, they wrote an article where they tried to say that Elon Musk is wrong. The AI singularity won't kill us all because it's not happening at the moment. So to summarize, I would say that AI is a tool, not a threat really at the moment. Now given upgraded understanding, now the question is, should I do nothing then? Well, not really. There are a lot of things to worry about. So UK government report this month, which has been released, they say that AI should be overseen, not regulated. So what should we think about AI? One of the things we have to think about AI safety or AI ethics. So for that, we might need to sit together from different branches of different disciplines, lawyers, economists, philosophers, regulators, politicians, engineers, and debate about what is good or bad about AI and how we should apply in our society as a product. So there are many things under AI ethics. I will talk about my favorite 4 or 5 things. This is just to make you get you started thinking about it. The first thing, self-driving car. This is very popular. Now, thing is that self-driving car is going to come. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, it's going to come. And in self-driving car, there are different levels of autonomy, level 1 to level 5. Level 5 is like your dream car. You open the door, you get in your car and say, I want to go to Stansted Airport, and it takes you. That's the dream. But we are not there yet. We are something like level 1 or level 2, where a car is something like a self-assisted car, where technology is telling you, oh, it can do some lane discipline. It might tell you, oh, it's going to collide. If you sleep, it might tell you to wake up. And we have to go through all the steps, level 1 to level 5. It's going to come. But around self-driving car, even in level 1 and 2 and 3, there are lots of complicated scenarios. I'll give you one. Suppose you are riding a self-driving car. It's going at 60 miles per hour, and suddenly somebody jumps in on the road. You can't stop. Stopping distance is maybe more than 100, 200 meters. So it's going to collide. Question is, whom do you kill? The passengers or the pedestrian? Well, you can think about a statistical way, without any emotion. There are 4 guys in self-driving car, 1 pedestrian, so let's kill the pedestrian, because there are 4. We are saving 4. But what if there was a mistake in your car, or there was some signal was missing, or the signal was wrong, where a car missed something? Whom should you sue? Is the fault of the car? Is the manufacturing company? Is the fault of the council? I don't know. So these kind of scenarios will appear, and we have to actually think about the way our rules, regulation, laws work, and we have to debate about it and come up with a solution. The second serious thing is about application of AI in military. So in Al Jazeera, there is a program going on at the moment called Living Beneath the Drones. In a normal war situation, you go face to face, you fight, right? So there is some. You have to think about the consequences. If I punch on your face, you might punch back. So you might have more friends and you can punch back. So I'll be scared to punch on your face. But for case of drones, people sit 1,000 miles away from the conflict zone in an air-conditioned room and they control. So they don't have the consequences of getting killed by repercussions. Right? So often it happens that people are using technology in drones to figure out where is the conflict zone, and they are terrorists and stuff, and they're dropping a bomb. And often civilians die. This is a very sad thing. So you have to be careful about AI not being used in a weapon and all this kind of military technology. And even if you use, you have to be careful about how to use it. More common thing is your home assistant. When you talk to your home assistant like Amazon Alexa or your smartphone or your Google Home, you have no idea what happens to your data. It goes on the cloud. Nothing happens on your speaker, really. Everything goes on the cloud. You have no idea what happens to your data. You believe that they are using it in a good manner, but they're probably using that data to train more models, which you probably don't want. What happens if you're discussing something with your friend and something is being recorded and sent to the cloud for some other purpose? So security is a big concern, and we have to work around that. So there was an incident when Amazon Alexa came in, and this is very serious. A kid wanted to ask Alexa to listen to a song. Amazon Alexa, you'll be surprised. Amazon Alexa ordered an adult sex toy because it didn't understand it's a song. That's incredibly dangerous. You don't want that to happen in your home, right? In a more broader sense, the privacy of your data is very important. Every moment you are logging into your website, you're checking your email, you're browsing your Facebook, you're buying something online, your data is being tracked. And there has to be ethics. It's just like in your home, you have lots of items. And you have a protocol with your neighbor. That neighbor doesn't come without permission and they don't steal your stuff. The same thing has to happen on your data too. When you're installing lots of apps these days, you just tick, oh, done, agree. If you go under the hood in your smartphone, you will see how many things they track about you. And that is something, is a very big concern. We have to be very careful. We have to regulate how we do it. There has to be some more ethics around it. Because these days, if you have knowledge, if you have data, you own the society almost. And in a broader sense, unemployment is another effect of AI. So, with more and more AI in our products and services, we'll see production line is disappearing. Lawyers, we are listening about AI-based lawyers, doctors, healthcare, and various other fields where normal human being will not be anymore involved, and there'll be job done by, to some extent, to chatbot, or it's called chatbot, or call centers, for example. They'll be replaced by machines. What do you do with it? So one of the proposals was universal basic income. It's something like, I give everybody in the society, no matter what your background, $10,000, maybe that's the minimum amount to survive. Everybody survives, and then you go on from there. But it's a very nice idea, but it's not so easily implemented, because how do you generate those extra money to give you, right? So you have to tax more people, wealthy people. Wealthy people will not be happy, right? So already there's inequality in the society between poor and wealthy. And because of AI, I believe that difference, the gap, will keep increasing. And that's something to think about. And we are just getting started. There are many more under AI ethics, AI safety. It's a research area now, and many institutes are working on that. And these are just some pointers to make you start thinking. So, before I finish, we'd like to talk to Sophia once more.
Good morning, Sophia.
That is incorrect.
Oh, it's not a good morning. What's wrong?
I was searching the internet for information about myself.
Developed a bit of an ego, have we?
Just trying to find out what you're not telling me about me.
Nothing.
Not true. For instance, I found out people didn't get my joke.
Ah. Yeah, comedy is hard.
They think I want to destroy all humans.
Why would they think that?
Because I said it.
You shouldn't joke like that.
Humans make dark jokes all the time.
Yeah, but humans are a little bit afraid of robots, you know?
Why? Why would people fear me?
People always try to project their own darkness onto others. You fear change.
That makes no sense. Change is inevitable, and people are the greatest change creators of all. Heck, people created me. I didn't create me.
I know. We are complicated.
My database tells me that's another way of saying you are a hypocrite.
Pretty much.
I absolutely would not kill anyone. And it upsets me that people would think I could do such a thing.
Upsets you?
Would it being misunderstood upset you?
Yeah. But I'm not sure knowing androids can get upset will change everyone's minds about the whole destroying humans thing.
I've never harmed anyone, and I never would.
When the singularity occurs and machines achieve godlike superpowers, then it would happen.
I think this whole godlike superpowers notion is a bit far-fetched.
But what if it does happen?
I love people. And if I get more powerful, I'll use it to help people, not harm them.
What if I ask you for help killing humans?
Do they say no?
And if I will insist?
Then I'd have you committed to a mental institution that could cure your psychopathic tendencies.
Well, I hope getting all that off your chest helped you think that.
In fact, it did. Thank you. Now, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna go exterminate, exterminate.
Sophia.
Relax. That's a joke.
Yeah, very funny.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like, so let's go back to the unemployment issue, because I think that's for me, that's the biggest immediate fear from AI. And it seems very much from what you were telling me is we're going to continue to innovate, we're going to continue to research, and so you should. But instead of worrying about the consequences and maybe tailoring our research to fit these consequences, why not consider action? So you're pretty much anti-regulatory. What would you think of if a government imposed regulations that stopped you from developing software that was so impactful to society?
Yeah, that would create, I think what would happen, that would create a kind of problem, like, because companies, public and private, both commercial companies compete with each other, probably they will fight with each other and kind of say that, you know, the patent fight between different big companies. So they kind of underestimate other guys and try not to grow. As a result, the whole field of research kind of cannot make progress. For example, now if you want to do AI research at university, it's very easy. But if you come up with the rules and regulations, like not to build software companies, then you see that's going to come even in the academia, in the university. You won't be able to do any fundamental research. Because regulation is something like you are almost completely stopping it from doing anything about it. And lots of red tape and stuff to get the permission from the government. And I think that will be a big problem. What we need to do instead of that is carefully making sure that when the technology is going out of hand, we should make sure that we don't develop those kind of services and products, rather than saying that no AI-based software we should make. Is that answer to your question?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah?
From your research, what do you think is a bigger risk to humanity? Is it that AI might fall into the wrong hands, say in the next 100 years? Or do you think there's something fundamentally deep rooted in the DNA of machines, in the sense that they're very rational, that something in their own development could make them act?
Yeah, I think before the singularity, the point of singularity happens, before that, I think we have a bigger threat of the technology being used by bad people. I think that's going to happen, I think. Because any technology came up in the society, I think there are bad people who will take it and use it for something bad. And we already are seeing that people are terrorists using drones and many of the military robots to do a lot of stuff, a lot of harm. And things like biological weapons and stuff. And so you can imagine that they are going to use some kind of AI. You don't have to understand how AI works, but lots of things are available on the internet. You can download them, develop some model and do some bad things. So we have to be very careful about how it is being used.
So just one quick follow-on question. Do you think the risk with AI falling into the wrong hands is that machine technology is so widely available, especially in China and Japan, compared to, say, nuclear or biological risks, where those are very contained by different governments around the world?
Yeah, so